Hi, welcome to the AIM on MS&T podcast. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, first off, welcome. We are happy to have you. Second, AIM stands for Academia, Industry, and Military, which are the main sectors that make up Central Florida's modeling, simulation, and training community. On our podcast, we talk with different leaders in the MS&T community. We also talk about all the cool and innovative things their organizations are doing, trends that affect the MS&T field as a whole, and keep you up to date with what's going on. If you're not a part of the modeling and simulation community, we hope to share some insight about this important sector of Orlando's economy, which ranks just behind the theme park and hospitality industries. I'm your host, Kate Finkel, and today we're talking to Captain Robert Betts, Commanding Officer for the Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division, also known as NAWCTSD. Captain, thank you for joining us today. To get us started, can you please tell our audience about yourself and how did your path lead you to where you are now?
Absolutely. First, thanks, Kate, for having me on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys taking the time. So about me, a small southern kid growing up in Louisiana, went to Georgia Tech, got my commission through Navy ROTC, ended up flying FA-18Fs for the Navy for a couple years before going to graduate school, getting a master's degree, and then transitioning over to the Acquisition Corps. I've been doing the acquisition professional gig for about 15 years now, and that brought me down to Orlando. And so I am an insufferably proud father. I am a husband to a military spouse. She is also active duty Navy. I am a proud and long-standing / heartbroken Georgia Tech fan and New Orleans Saints fan. I do remember the Bagheads and the Aints back with the Saints in the 80s, so I'm not one of those bandwagon guys. Okay. That kind of sums me up.
Thank you for that great introduction. It's always interesting to hear what draws someone into this field. Can you take us a little deeper into how your Navy career led you into the modeling and simulation space? Also, were there any specific roles or moments that set you on that path?
This is actually a very easy question for me. It was July 2006.
Very specific.
Very specific. I was thinking about it the other day. So I had to stop flying because of some medical issues, and so I got taken out of the cockpit. I was working a job there in Lemoore trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I had two of my old instructors from the FA-18 Fleet Replacement Squadron who called me up one Friday and said, "Hey, we have a spot for you at Naval Postgraduate School. No one's going to use it. We think you should go do it." And one of the curriculum that you could go to was MOVES, Modeling Virtual Environments and Simulations. Okay. I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. What's that? And they're like, oh, it's like video games, but for the military. Okay. They're like, hey, you owe us an answer by Monday.
Wow.
So thought about it over the weekend, came back to them on Monday, said, yep, I'm interested. I'll go to NPS. I'll go work on modeling and simulations. And so moved to Monterey in September of 2006, started the curriculum, graduated with my master's in modeling, virtual environments, and simulations in September of 2008. And then in January of 2009, February of 2009, I was down in San Diego working at Tactical Training Group Pacific, coordinating fleet synthetic training events for carrier strike groups. And so that was kind of my transition from modeling and simulation in an academic perspective over to actual application and using it every day.
That's a really insightful look at how your Navy experience connected you to the modeling and simulation space. Now that we've explored how your career path brought you into this field, let's talk about your current role. We had your predecessor, Captain Tim James, on the podcast last year, and he gave us some insight about NAWCTSD and how it all started. Since you became its commanding officer, what are some of your top priorities for the command, and how do you see NAWCTSD evolving in the next few years?
So that's an interesting question. People always ask, like, what are your priorities? What are you going to change? As you noted, it's been about 3 weeks. And so not much has changed in that time. Yeah. I would tell you that the priorities definitely aren't going to change, right? One of our priorities at NAWCTSD is always fielding quality training systems at the pace that our warfighter needs them, right? So trying to get things out into the field as quickly as can, trying to get training products into the hands of people that need them. That priority won't change. And I know that Captain James had focused, he was laser focused on that, as well as focusing on how can we expedite and speed up those timelines. One of the things that he focused on significantly was contract award timelines and making sure that we tried to get those on time, knowing that if I award a contract on time, I'm much more likely to actually deliver a product on time. And so he did a fantastic job of getting to the command to a point where now we're awarding 96% of our contracts on time, which is staggering for any acquisition organization.
Yeah.
But I would like to take that, use that momentum, and now start to focus on the back end of things, right? So we've been awarding our contracts 96% of the time, on time, I'd like to take that and focus on the deliveries now. Our deliveries are still at about 68%. I'd like to see that number come up, because awarding a contract on time is great, not as significant if I'm still not getting training products out into the hands of people that need them on time.
True.
And so looking at the Davidson window and the time frame that we have for potential future conflicts getting closer, any training product that is sitting on the shelf and is not being fielded or not being used by people that need it is not doing anyone any good. And so we need to translate all the momentum that we've built up awarding contracts on time and figuring out how to go fast, and now use that momentum towards delivering products at that same pace.
With all that being said, are there any projects that you can talk about, of course, that you are especially excited about? What kinds of projects and collaborations would you like to see NAWCTSD involved with as you lead the organization?
So there are hundreds of projects going on at NAWCTSD at any given time, right? I believe we have over 300 products that we're currently working on, and then we have dozens of research projects that are also going on. I'd like to focus on kind of a couple projects that are, delivering product, and as well a couple of research projects. So MS&T is one of our big ones over the last year, where we've taken training devices, think low-cost simulators for F-35, F-18, and E-2, and we've put them on board carriers so that carrier aviators actually have training devices that they can use while deployed to practice mission rehearsal. They can practice switchology, symbology training, things like that. Basically, they can keep their proficiency at doing the hard, complex missions while they're deployed, which is usually when we find that the proficiency in those highly complex tasks starts to decrease. Love that. We need to get that on more carriers. We've gotten nothing but overwhelmingly positive feedback from the carrier air wings that have deployed with it, and so we want to keep that going. One of the other things the team is focused on is providing live virtual constructive or LVC type training on the edge. Usually when you do a live virtual constructive event, it is either in a building or you do it with the ships as their pier side. You connect them to the network and you turn the ship itself into a simulator. Now we're moving towards providing that same live virtual constructive environment, except while the ships are deployed, so while they're out at sea. Doing that, again, to allow the strike groups to maintain that level of tactical proficiency and provide them those red entities, blue entities, et cetera, while they're deployed, so that they can continue to get that type of training. And then finally, on the research side, one of the things that's fascinating now is the integration of artificial intelligence and automation into our training products. One of the things that we're seeing is our mission sets are becoming so complex and our training products are becoming so complex that asking a lieutenant or a lieutenant commander in a squadron or on a ship to run these, to keep them going, to generate the mission sets and scenarios for people to get training on them, that is no longer a viable option. And so by integrating artificial intelligence and automation into these training products, what we can do is that can relieve some of that burden off of that young lieutenant who also has a day job. They need to maintain operational proficiency, things like that. But now we can use those tools to help generate scenarios as well as analyze data and help conduct debrief to bring out the salient learning points.
On a similar note, how do you foster a culture of innovation within a government/military organization?
So this is a tough one. The way that the government operates, the way the government contracts are written specifically, it is hard to foster innovation because everything is success-based. And in order to truly embrace innovation, you have to be willing to fail. You have to understand that, hey, we're going to go fast, we're going to think differently, but some of the things that we do aren't going to work.
Right.
And that's okay, right? And so one of the things that we've been trying to remind people around here is it is okay to fail. Go as fast as you want, do the weird thing, and if you fail, okay, we learned. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. But you also have to make sure people understand, like, hey, the consequences for failure are not severe, right? If you fail, you're going to maintain your job. A lot of people around here at TSD, having been here for 6 years at this point, people at TSD are very focused on if I fail, people are going to look at me in a diminished light, right? People are worried about the professional reputation if a project that they are working on fails. And so we try to make sure people understand, hey, that's not the case, right? we're not going to judge you if you fail. In fact, we're going to celebrate your failure. We're going to learn from it what we can, and we're going to apply it across the organization. And the other thing to remember is innovation is not always focused on the product. Sometimes it's just focused on the processes. And so if we can innovate our processes and if we can make new processes so that we can, again, get training devices out into the field faster, everybody wins. So that is what I would say for a culture of innovation around here, is just stressing to the team, failure is perfectly fine. Nothing bad is going to happen if you fail, and we're all going to celebrate it, which is a weird thing to say out loud.
That's a good message, though. Collaboration is key, especially in this industry. We know NAWCTSD leads the Tech Grove in collaboration with other service partners. What's new and exciting happening over there? How does Tech Grove help you reach your goals for innovation, and how does it help build the ecosystem?
Oh, man. So Tech Grove is one of those, as someone who likes to, again, hey, fail fast. Right. Let's do weird things. Let's see what kind of craziness we can do. Tech Grove is one of those mad scientist laboratories. And so what Tech Grove does is it gives us the opportunity to bring in non-standard businesses, entities that kind of, hey, I want to do work with the DoD, but I don't know how to get involved with it. How can I help? Okay, well, we can bring you into a place that is off the installation, and now you don't have to worry about security clearances, getting on base, and it's an open space for collaboration. And so we bring people in. I believe over the last fiscal year, we've conducted 100 events,
wow.
Anything from prize challenges, juice bars, tech scans, things like that. 22% of the companies that we brought in over that same time period were non-traditional businesses that have not done business with the DoD before. And so we are bringing in those garage guys, is what we like to call, right? The two guys in the garage who are very passionate about this very niche project that they have. And that's the innovation. To your earlier point, Kate, like where's that innovation coming from? It's coming from those guys, right, who are very passionate about this. And so you bring those guys in and you let them collaborate with the rest of industry and show their technology. And that's truly how you use Tech Grove to kind of spark that innovation. And also it helps us expand the ecosystem, like you were talking about. And so Tech Grove is a lot of fun. I try to get over there as much as I can, not only just to get away from the office, but they're always doing something fun in there. And it's a very collaborative environment. And so just trying to work with all the other Team Orlando principals to get them over there and let them see, especially when we have like an industry day or a demo day, get over there and see what small businesses or, what garage guys have the new tech that's coming up. It's a lot of fun to work with.
Now, Naval X has become a big name in accelerating innovation across the Navy. How is NAWCTSD's role in the Central Florida Tech Bridge involved, and what new developments should we be watching for?
Ooh, I don't even know if I'm the right person to answer this one, but I'll take a stab at it. So our Tech Grove is kind of the physical instantiation of the Central Florida Tech Bridge, which is one of the original nodes there on the Naval X Tech Bridge network. And so our team, the director that we have, Miss Erin Baker, her job is kind of managing Tech Grove and helping us solve hard problems while also networking with the other tech bridges around the world, right? And so let's say that one of our partner tech bridges at a different location would get a question about modeling and simulation, human performance, training systems, et cetera, that they didn't know how to solve. They could contact us and point that person who has that problem in our direction. We could do the same thing if someone, for example, had a problem about electronic warfare. That's not in our area of expertise, and so we'd farm that out.
Right.
And so that's how the network is supposed to work. And here at Tech Grove, we do that very well. What new things are coming up? Improved website design, 8 upcoming prize challenges and tech scans in the next few months. And there's also a new calendar of collaborative events that we're going to be publishing recently to let people know, hey, here are the events that are coming up. Here are the collaboration efforts or timeframes that you can come in to try to bring more people into the ecosystem.
You shared some incredible insights about innovation and collaboration. Now, let's turn the focus inward for a moment. Can you share a defining moment or challenge in your career that shaped your leadership philosophy?
So I don't have the date for this one.
Okay.
Unlike the NPS story. Mm-hmm. But I do have one very vivid memory that sticks out that kind of made me rethink my leadership philosophy. As I was growing up in the Navy, you kind of hear all the same things like, hey, be firm but fair, communicate well with your people, take care of your people. That's kind of the leadership tenets that you were brought up with. And then one of my mentors, and this would have been 7 or 8 years ago, I think, he and I were having a chat one day, and he said, hey, who motivates the motivator, right? And the question is, hey, how do you inspire people as the person at the top? How do you take that And how do you inspire? How do you make sure that your people know that you care about them? How do you make sure that your people know that you support them and you will be, you are going to get them through whatever challenges that you face? And that question forced me to take a step back and say, I'd never looked at it that way.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good one.
I'd always looked at hey, just as long as you take care of your people, okay, but what does that mean? Right? A lot of people, for a lot of people, hey, heads in beds, make sure people have a place to sleep, make sure they have clothes, make sure, make sure they have things to eat, et cetera. And so it forced me to kind of take a step back and say, okay, as a leader, how do I want to make sure that I take care of people? And so that is the specific instance that kind of made me rethink my leadership philosophy and kind of turn more towards hey, I know that I want to be a servant leader. Okay, well, how do you do that correctly? How do you do that well? With an organization of 1,150 people, you've got engineers, comptrollers, contract specialists. We have active duty military, comptrollers, financial people, lawyers, for goodness sake. How do you connect with that workforce and show them that not only do you care, but you do support them both professionally and personally?
Yeah.
And so that one instance forced me to take a step back and figure out from a leadership perspective how I wanted to do that. I try to connect with people on a personal basis. I fail miserably half the time because a lot of our workforce is about half my age. They don't get my movie references, they don't get my book references, and they don't like the same sports teams I do, which I understand. But what I found is trying to connect with people on a personal level to find something similar that you can both relate to and then just help them understand hey, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm here to support. I'm here to make your life easier, right? That's my job. I think a couple of years ago, I told people that I was the bulldozer. It's my job to remove barriers so that you can do your job well. I still believe that.
That's a good scenario.
That is a leader's job, right? It's just to remove barriers and to make the people that work with them. It's your job to make their lives easier. I'm not as effective of a bulldozer as I used to be, but I still like to think that I can throw my weight around if I need to.
As we begin to wrap up our conversation, we'd like to end on an inspiring note. What advice would you offer someone who is considering going into a similar career path as you? In particular, what would you tell someone that you wish someone had told you when you were deciding your future career?
There would have been two things. One is take the hard job. A lot of times we kind of point people, especially in the acquisition field, we point people towards, hey, this is the job that you should take. And it may not be the hard job. It may just be the job that will get you recognized the most, or the job that we think, hey, this one will look good on paper.
Right.
If you truly want to stand out and if you truly want to succeed, take the hard job. If you take the hard job and you succeed at the hard job, everything else will take care of itself, right? Everybody knows what the hard jobs are. They may not be listed as these are the really hard ones, but everyone knows what the hard jobs are. And so if you take one of the hard jobs and you succeed in the hard job, you will get rewarded. The system is supposed to work that way, and I truly believe that it does. The other piece would be don't fear failure, like we talked about earlier. Failure is just going to happen. I can tell you that as a lieutenant commander, when I was working F-35 back in 2011, 2012, I was given a project. Hey, you've got it. Go run with it. Make sure this happens. And I fumbled the ball drastically. I didn't even get to the goal line. I was on the 15-yard line, right? I didn't even get close. Fumbled it majorly. And I was super, super down about it. And my boss pulled me aside and was like, okay, not a big deal. We'll figure it out and we'll carry it. Life will go on, right?
Yeah.
And so once you realize that, hey, life will go on. It'll be okay. Yeah, you failed, but okay, now we'll learn something. And what we were talking about earlier. You failed. Let's learn from it, and now let's move on and get back to business. Don't fear failure, because the fear of failure will prevent you from taking risks, and it will prevent you from trying to go as fast as you can because you are afraid of the repercussions. And if you're afraid of those things, you're not going to succeed. It's kind of like I used to play football growing up, and they were always, the coaches would always tell us hey, if you're afraid out there, you're going to get hurt. Same thing happens in acquisition. If you're afraid to make a decision, if you're afraid to take risks, you're not going to go as fast as you can. You're not going to be as successful as you could be. So don't fear failure.
That's true. Now, before we sign off, where should our listeners go to find out more about NAWCTSD?
We have a very active social media profile. You can always Google us at NavAir. I believe it's www.navair.mil. And then we have Facebook, LinkedIn pages, as well as an active X account, which people much smarter and witty than me will use to put out announcements, not just from a command perspective, so not just from NAWCTSD, but also for Tech Grove as well. Additionally, the Central Florida Tech Grove has its own LinkedIn account. And so that is another great place for information to find out when the prize challenges are happening, tech scans, etc.
With that, we are going to end this episode here. Thank you, Captain, for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
For everyone listening, to stay up to date on future events in the modeling and simulation community, check out our website, teamorlando.org. You'll also find us on LinkedIn, X, and Facebook for more recent news and upcoming events. If you're interested in sponsoring an episode of AIM on MS&T or being a featured guest, please reach out to Team Orlando News. The link will be below. Don't forget to follow the AIM on MS&T podcast on your platform of choice, and we will see you in the next one. Bye!